Welcome back, everybody. This is Rodrigo, founder, with another episode of the Asheville Real Estate News Podcast. Really excited today because we've got two guests on the show, and we don't do this too often, but today, special occasion, some really important topics. If you all have listened into the podcast, you've seen Jeff on the podcast before. If you're curious about anything, Jeff, just go back, listen to that episode. I think came out a couple weeks ago. And I'm actually going to let Jeff introduce our second guest on the show, and just maybe you can explain how all three of us are here today.
Sure. So I've got with me Stewart Downey. Stewart's the CEO, we call it team leader in the Keller Williams infrastructure in South Asheville, which is our Keller Williams Elite office. Stewart has a long history in real estate in New Bern, North Carolina, productivity coach, student of the market, and genuinely good guy. So glad to have him here. He's got that. He's got better retention and better. He's just a student of the market, a little better than I am. So I want to bring him on, and he's digging into some really interesting stuff that I thought would be great to share.
Awesome. Well, Stewart, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled. Such a glowing introduction. I hope I can live up to that.
Sure you will. I think important context-wise that we didn't even know each other's names until we met in the parking lot. It all happened from email chain. Hey, we should have this conversation about technology and what's happening in the marketplace and how that impacts real estate. Mm-hmm. Jeff sent the email. I was like, okay, sounds good. Don't need to know anything else. So here we are. How did you get into real estate to begin with, and what's been your journey from whenever you started in real estate to the position you hold now?
Cool. It's an awesome question, and I'll be honest, it was a predetermined thing. I'm a third-generation broker.
Yeah, it was in your blood, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really have a choice. I literally ran from it. I did everything I could not to be a real estate broker. Mm-hmm. I was a chef. I was a private investigator. That's a story for another day. And I've got a bachelor's degree in history and a minor in classics, which means you're unhireable.
Yeah.
So I'm just kidding, kind of. So for me, it was, kind of learning about myself and learning where I valued my time and how much I valued myself and self-worth. And I said, you know what, the opportunity for me in real estate is just too great for me to turn it down. So the decision was pretty simple. I've been going to Board of Alderman meetings with my dad since I was like 6. So finally I was like, you know what, let's go give this a shot. And, walking through career, I came in as a buyer specialist and really didn't know what I was doing, but found the Keller system, and it really kind of helped guide me, and it ended up going and focusing solely on listings for a year. I was a top producer there. And then I was able to take all of that experience, step out of sales entirely, and spent my next year and a half coaching. So I would just contract with individual agents and basically help them grow their real estate business through what I'd done. And about, April of 2019, I get a phone call from Jeff and one of his partners, and they're like, hey, we've got a cool opportunity up in South Asheville, and we'd love to interview for that process. And so that was, 2.5 months of interviews, conversations, and generally good discussions that led me to probably one of my, it's an opportunity that I've been pursuing since I really learned about the opportunity to run a real estate firm. So
awesome, man. Well, I want to go back to the beginning, and I'm always curious about, you said you were running away from it, right? Mm-hmm. For a while. What happened? Was there a pivotal moment? Did something specific happen where it kind of just switched the plug and you're like, okay, I'm going all in? Or was this just a gradual process that finally got you to real estate?
I think the light bulb was, I was doing 70 to 80 hours a week in a restaurant at the time.
As a chef?
As a chef. Okay. And it was not at all rewarding. I'd never got to interact with, I really didn't get to interact with the clientele. Yeah. And I never got to see them enjoy what I was making for them. So it was that, at that moment I was just kind of like, I don't want to do this forever, and let me go back to what I know.
How quick was that transition period from when you're like, okay, I'm done being a chef, I'm going to do the real estate? How long was it until you're, all in?
2 months.
So it was a really quick turnaround.
The day I passed my state and national test, I gave my 2 weeks notice to the owner of the restaurant, and he said, "Do you want to just go now?"
And you're like, yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Wow, so we got so many places where we can take this, but let's start on what the focus is a little bit today, and technology and kind of where you see things going. So we're recording this second week of January, first full business week. So it's a good opportunity to just look forward. What are you guys seeing from a technological standpoint, or what is happening that this conversation is important and relevant?
I mean, everything's changing. Technology is driving everything. You're familiar with the term industrial revolution?
Yes.
And have you heard fourth industrial revolution?
I think I have, but I don't know. I'm drawing a little bit of a
Listeners may
blank,
not.
and maybe
Listeners
not.
may
So
not.
educate me. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start there, and I'm going to doodle just so I keep myself in exactly where we need to go. So if we look at any industry, there are 3 to 4 phases of the industry, the fourth being just kind of stasis and success.
And so I'm going to interrupt you real quickly. Just anybody who's listening, we're going to have graphics on the blog post that comes up. So there's doodling going on if you're listening to this or if you're watching this on YouTube.
It's not good doodling, but
It doesn't matter.
It'll be effective graphs. So we'll have things on the blog post, and you can just check that out on our website. So sorry, just
No, you're fine.
yeah.
So we're talking about industry as a whole. So we look at its outset, any new industry, it goes through a period of creation.
Right.
That creation period is a whole lot of testing, a whole lot of ideas. And the cool thing about that phase is there are tons of players. From your small local mom and pop to big national companies. And they're all kind of figuring out how this thing works and how it's supposed to go. And that's really what solidifies the industry and allows it to exist basically in our collective conscious. So if you look at the real estate industry as an example of that, 79 to 82% of people, and it fluctuates, is why I use the range, will actually use a real estate broker for their transaction. It might even be a little bit higher than that. But that tells me we have saturation as an industry. So where we sit right now, we exist as the real estate industry. It's pretty much common practice that when you go to buy or sell real property or invest in real property, you're going to find an agent because you want and need that expertise. So what happens therein next is when you have a technological influx. So that's the phase where everyone would say it's innovation or disruption.
Depending what side you fall.
Exactly.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
It is completely subjective, and I like to couch it all in the same because disruption means the idea of disruption is it's a player that's not currently in the game that comes in and wants to take a share. And innovation means it's current players building on the opportunity. The reality being they're both after the same end goal, which is the next iteration. So basically, after you get the tinkering and you get that market saturation, the next opportunity is where do we go next? So when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, we're looking at the addition of 2 pieces to 3 that already exist. So if you look at where everything has existed before in terms of the technological age, you have hardware, software. Now, if you remember IBM and Microsoft, IBM made the hardware, and they made the computers, they made the stuff.
Right.
And they said, we don't need to deal with the software. We'll let some upstart in a garage create it. And years later, Bill Gates was the most wealthy man in the world because they let go of the software.
Right.
Because the equipment is only as good as the equipment is. The software is really what drives it. Well, what we found is there was a point where we had no more usage of the software or the hardware because we didn't have any more storage. So that's when we created the cloud. And the internet really allowed us to, okay, you can access this anywhere in the world and everything's great and you can get it from just about any device and it all talks together. So this, in and of itself, is actually a commodity. What we see in the fourth industrial revolution are 2 pieces that we add to this. You have data and you have artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So the commodity is the apparatus, the software, and then the cloud. Data and data powered by artificial intelligence is really the move forward of where the industry is going. The opportunity here is I can buy and sell this. Every one of us in this room.
When you say this,
meaning,
you're talking,
the hardware, software, and cloud. That's
Right.
the commodity. It's a package in itself. So any of us can buy that.
Right.
You have it in your pocket. You have a cell phone. That's hardware, software, and cloud.
Correct.
what our industry is seeing, and we're actually kind of behind a couple other industries having this experience, is the introduction of data powered by artificial intelligence. Take, for example, Amazon, for instance. When you pull up Amazon to go order anything, are you a Prime member?
I am.
This is not a plug. It's just
I was kind of like a little hesitant.
Yeah,
What am I setting myself up for?
No.
So it's question 2.
If you pull up your Amazon account right now, it's going to show you, and I'm not going to ask specifics, but it's going to show you probably your most recent search history and like-kind items.
Right.
Yep.
Will yours look like mine?
Hopefully not.
Historically significant items, right?
Yeah. Things that were important to you. No, yours, in all likelihood, unless we share exactly the same interests, won't look like it.
Right.
So that's curated design for you. That's data. That's artificial intelligence. That's what our industry is starting to see.
Yeah.
So what happens in this phase, in phase 2, is who gets to go where. These players that exist in innovation or disruption, they're either going to go to the saturation phase of, all right, there are only 3 to 5 of us left, or...
So you either make it or you don't.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's where we're at with data, AI, and real estate specifically talking,
That's
right? Okay. So could you give us a couple of examples of these companies that are vying for staying power right now?
Absolutely.
Or concepts, maybe. Let's start with concepts and then let's do companies afterwards.
Okay. So...
Or it doesn't matter what order.
No, you're fine. I think the concepts kind of lend to the company. So I have to start with concept number 1, which doesn't exist anymore. That was literally just agent.
Right.
Well, that's gone now because we sold all our data and we gave it up to multiple listing service and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So that part's gone. So the other end of the spectrum would be it's only technology and the agent role is completely gone. I'm not really worried about that because that's like iRobot, Terminator kind of thing. When the machines are buying and selling real property, yes, we might have a problem. But there will always be a human element. So the question then becomes, are you is it an agent who is enabled by tech? Or is it tech that's enabled by an agent? And so the market difference here is
That's
pretty...
a great question, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So the question is, who's the fiduciary? When you're a tech-enabled agent, the tech is what helps you in the process, but you're the fiduciary. You're the fiduciary. The technology is the functionary. So helping you through contracts, processes, forms, finding things. The other end of the spectrum is the technology is the fiduciary and the agent is the functionary. So they're doing the tasks, but they're not actually driving the ship. So that's really the biggest question in our industry right now is what model is going to be the model of choice? Is it going to be everyone comes to the tech first and then the agent just has a key card and they get, very little to go do some things?
Right.
Yeah, the functionary. Or does everyone come to the agent as the expert and are we driving that through the technology that we ourselves own?
Wow, that's a big
big,
question.
isn't it?
Yeah. So, Jeff, I know. Well, I guess you guys have had similar roles. I was going to get into like people who are building teams and getting that start. So either one of you can answer this. Is right now, what's your gut on where most people fall on this spectrum? Because it's still early, but technology is obviously a very big part of real estate though, at the same time.
So I believe there's a fear that the agent will be replaced by tech.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't believe that. I believe the agent will be replaced, but the agent will be replaced by the agent that embraces technology and that leverages technology. So I think the industry as a whole is going to fall into when an agent is intentional about growing with the technology and leveraging that technology, we create a fairly substantial barrier to entry for agents that are not willing to embrace that tech. So when we look at our teams that are being successful and making progress, creating a gap, a value proposition gap, it's those that are leaning into tech. There's no reason to fear it. But what we need to understand is the traditional pipeline of business flow. He was talking about functionary. It's changing.
Right.
So we're at a point now that we don't do it that way because we've always done it. We're asking how best can I serve our clients and what technology can I use to not even serve it the same way I did, but how can I serve it even at a higher level using that technology and the AI and the information that's extracted using that technology.
Yeah. Do you want to add or?
Well, I mean, you hit it, and it's all about are you accepting and are you working to fulfill this and build this for yourself. The competing schools of thought are how little can I do in the virtual world to maintain what I have.
Exactly.
And
that's a great way to say it.
That's that's going to lose because what you have to think is how much can I do in the virtual world, and how little do I have to do in the physical to keep what I have.
Yeah.
Or how can I do that more efficiently?
Exactly.
Maybe not replace maybe stagnant activities with value-add activities.
Right. So I keep coming back to the thought process of like the difference between doing something like in a transactional way versus a transformational way, and like it's I don't even remember who I heard that from. It's not like an original idea, but there's like you have the option. You can go out and do the transaction and go A to Z. Yep. And if you do the transformation, it's still going to be A to Z, but it's going to be everything that somebody walks away outside of that. And it sounds like that's kind of the differentiating point right now, right? Okay, so what happens next then as part of this fourth cycle, now that we kind of have a feel for what the two parties are, if we are?
Yeah, totally. So the next thing is we have to understand, all right, this is what the industry is doing, now the why behind what the industry is doing. It's all about who wins the customer experience. The consumer experience is what drives our industry.
Right.
So whoever wins on that end is the one that actually is going to maintain the lion's share moving forward. And so how do you do that? Well, if you are a tech-enabled agent, you're looking at saying, I need to own my software. I need to own the process. I need to own every bit of the functions so that I can stay in control. The other side is the techs say, I want to own it, and the employee or the agent will be an employee of it. So
taking over the functionary activities. I have now turned you into a door opener.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally where a lot of these companies are. Zillow is a great example.
Yeah.
They grabbed enough market share, right, to give them command of the lead flow. And we all, in this industry, we know that if you control the lead, you control the industry, basically. Absolutely. So what they've done is they've grabbed an incredible market share, and now they're pushing the agent into a functionary role. And a lot of
agents, is just opening the doors.
Yeah, totally. And they win in that. And what's interesting is they're not, without getting on a huge Zillow tangent, they're not trying to make money off of the transaction.
No. They're trying, because their revenue model, I don't know, is getting people to pay to be premier agents, right?
Well, on top of that, they've even gotten into, and Barton's even saying this blatantly, I'm making money off of insurance, the mortgage, all these ancillary services.
All the providers to make the sale.
That I own. So I'm going to get the sale, lock you into my sphere, and then I'm going to make my money in other areas while taking the agent out of the fiduciary process.
But I think that there could be a really good argument for how powerful Zillow is as a tool too, right?
Absolutely.
So
that's
let's hear
enabled.
That. Yeah. Could either one of you give an example of how Zillow could be a really positive thing too versus just like the downside that we sort of touched on?
No, I can't say anything positive. I'm just kidding.
But that was going to be me. I was like, you're never going to hear me say a fond word about Zillow ever.
Not fond of them as far as like who they are, but more of like there is this component of their technology that I mean, I'm assuming, and I don't know this, that does make your life easier as an agent if you deploy it correctly. Not that you're going to say, oh, I'm a fan of Zillow, but it's like, hey, they created technology, might not like how they're using it, but if I'm smart, I can still tweak it.
I don't know that I would agree with you from an agent standpoint. Okay. I will say from a consumer standpoint, what they've done is they've lowered the barriers to entry as far as information goes. So what they've done is they've aggregated a whole bunch of data. Nothing's new technology, but what they've done is they put it all in one spot.
Yeah.
They're using, wouldn't say they've got into, the only predictive analytics they have is moving into the Zestimate, right?
Right.
They're using all these different sources to come up with a Zestimate. It's our experience that it's not as accurate, right? It's a Zestimate. So what they're doing is they're pulling all this information and giving you a baseline. What we're learning is the consumer doesn't care. They don't care what the number is. What they want is somebody to tell them what they think it's worth.
Yeah.
So that's where our value proposition starts to be more important as agents, right? What is our fiduciary duty, and where do we create a value gap over a functionary position? I don't. Zillow is a predator as far as the agent world goes. I think it's been a tremendous asset for the consumer, and I will say as a whole to the industry, it's been good for one reason. It's forcing the real estate companies to increase their value proposition and the agents to get serious about who they are, what they do, and what their business model looks like. That wouldn't have happened without pressure. So it's the good agents are going to flourish. The other agents will be working for Zillow.
Yeah. And I think the power here is for the consumer to understand that this doesn't affect cost to the consumer. Whether Zillow gets it still is going to cost the same. It's just who are you paying?
That's right.
That's the difference between a disintermediary and True Vision and innovation.
Right.
So.
I was expecting to hear something positive about Zillow. So I'm a little surprised, but that's okay.
So throw something out there because I'm just interested. I'm not to argue that, but I'd be curious.
I just think that for what, at least the world that I live in, working with somebody who's super well educated and has a feel of what's going on makes my life 10 times easier.
That's right.
And so I'm just coming at, if I was an agent, I'd be like, go to Zillow, do your work, and then we're going to talk you through it because that's going to get you 80% of the way there. I don't have to do anything, and the last 20% is really where it matters. So if you trust me and I'm telling you go do this, and we've got the relationship, I'm going to bank on the fact that you believe what I'm saying, and if you don't, then it's probably not going to be a worthwhile relationship anyways because I haven't proven myself to you.
That's right.
But if you're able to, I just think it's a way to leverage, kind of what you said, a lot of the, I'm pretty sure looking at a house on Zillow is a better experience than through the MLS portals that I've seen at least.
Agreed.
So that's kind of where I'm coming at. It's like, look at your house, look what I've done, etc. And then, you want to talk pricing? This is where I rock. Let's go.
I love that. So I actually do think that it has created the pressure I talked about. That's what I'm talking about. They raise the level. Right. They do it better than anybody else does on the internet right now. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. It's reality. And that's why they have market share. Yeah. I think it's great for the consumer because every company out there is raising their level or getting out. Yeah. Right? So I appreciate that pressure. What I don't want to see is agents sitting there being the travel agent that Expedia disrupted.
Agreed wholeheartedly. And I think that's kind of what we want to talk about is how do we avoid that, right? So I know we're on, is it stage 3 of the 4th industrial? Is that where we're at now? Yes. Trying to kind of bring us back to,
So we'll play it all together. Yeah. And the simple fact of the matter is you have to control the means of production. You have to own your technology. Right. And right now, the push for the real estate industry is how do we connect the 3 key pieces? And the 3 key pieces are the virtual consumer, the virtual agent, and the virtual market center or office. So how do we connect these 3 things and provide them with what they need? Well, you have to first build a platform so that all of these have an interface. And the platform is built on data and artificial intelligence. Everything else has to stem from that. So you have to have, the brokerage firm has to have an end to that and be able to input and receive information from it. The agent in the market center, they don't have to be physically tied, but they still have to have an opportunity to communicate. The agent needs to have a portal to the platform itself to be able to run their business. Agent consumer has a portal that they can communicate, and the consumer also has an access point to the platform as well. The whole point is that every piece of the process is talking to itself and to each other. That is adding more data, and it's allowing the AI to learn faster. This is where the predictive analytics comes in, and this is what AI and large amounts of data for real estate firms that have it, which I will be candid and say there are very few that have a stockpile of transactional data in history. This allows us to say, all right, we know that based on these certain metrics, the standard or average would be that you'll be in a home 8.5 years. So anyone that I've worked with over the past 8.5 years, it would behoove me to go ahead, and if the AI would go ahead and tell me, you should probably send this strip, or even don't even tell me, just start doing it.
So ultimately, I want to chime in here because when I hear that, objectively what I hear is there's an opportunity for me to make money, right? Transactional value in that. I guess the point I want to make on that is that also is a higher level of service. So to the consumer, if your agent is reaching out to you ahead of time and saying, hey, interest rates have dropped by a point, it may make sense to refinance based off of the AI and the predictive analytics. You have an opportunity to save X amount per month. So I wanted to make sure to just note that that's not just transactional, saying there's an opportunity for sales here. There is a service opportunity that AI. So I want to partner with AI and leverage AI rather than just saying, hey, let's use AI to make money. Because that's the conversation that I hear it framed in most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's like, the Uber app or something on your phone that you use all the time that has increased my quality of life.
Right. So if you say, let's use AI to transform the experience.
Experience, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's it, right? So what are you after? Again, we're looking at it as our job is to give the agent everything that they need so that they can defend the customer experience.
Right.
Whereas the other means of production, the competing thought is we want to control the lead flow and trust that the customer experience will be all right. So one is kind of one is looking out for the consumer through the agent, and the other is looking out for the bottom dollar of the company.
Right.
And I could talk about stockholder supremacy and what publicly traded companies actually care about, but.
So it's a 30-second of that.
Dun.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So in the 19...
Because, let me ask if it's relevant because how many players in the space right now that are vying for staying power are publicly traded versus not, I guess, if you know the answer to that.
So it's all
but
one.
All but one. Okay.
And so
then let's talk about that because that is super relevant.
So they're all kind of based on a model that was from the 1980s, and that model is stockholder supremacy, which is the people investing in the company are far more important than those who actually do the day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the profit margins for the company are good and the stockholders are happy, everything is good and well in Wall Street. Mm-hmm. Well, there's an inherent problem with that because it puts profit over people, and we're specifically in a people-first industry. Not to mention, we are also in a free market economy that allows people to vote with their feet.
Right.
So if you're saying, I will do anything for the sake of profit and making sure my stockholders are happy, what happens when the people who are driving your business, the agent, are no longer happy with what happens? Because when you don't own the platform you build on, and the person who owns the platform increases cost, stockholder supremacy says the brokerage firm is not going to eat that cost. They're going to pass it through to the agent. Well, when you pass it through to the agent, do they get to pass it to the consumer?
Nope.
No. So they eat it and their profit margin goes down, and that's exactly what is happening in the industry. Everyone's looking to not charge the consumer anymore, or any less for that matter. The brokerage firms, most specifically, aren't going to let their profits suffer. So it's all just going to be more expensive for the agent to do their job.
To maintain the same level of customer experience.
Yeah.
And or increase it.
Because when you decrease how much I can make, then that also decreases the customer experience to a point where
you can't spend on, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So... Wow, we could do this for a long time.
No, this is a huge topic. And that's why I brought it up when we kind of introduced the idea over email. This is a huge topic, and the deeper we get into, like the further we go down the path, it just opens up all these other questions, and we get into the stockholder question and what is the motivation behind this, and then I'm looking at consumers and access to information. It just starts opening up all this stuff.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
And I think it's on topic, and if it's not, we'll do a quick answer. We'll come back to it.
Or we'll edit it out.
Yeah. So I was listening to the Think Like a CEO podcast that Gary Keller and Jay Papson's been doing. Great podcast. Yeah. Everybody should listen to it if you haven't. And he's talking about where they've made the shift from becoming a real estate company basically to a technology company. How is that not going to end up in a comparable situation as like what any of these other technology companies that are in real estate doing? So what's going to be the differentiation point, do you guys think, because you all both KW agents, that you're not going to end up being Zillow agents by accident, if that makes sense, the question?
Yeah.
So the simple response there is Gary Keller has always said, I'm a realtor. I'm going to go to my grave, and you're going to have realtor on my headstone. And everything that he's done, and his track record is kind of proof in the pudding. He's always built a company that puts agents first because he believes that we're the expert and we can provide the best customer service to people. Not to mention, he's basically said, I'm going to spend $1 billion in technology and not charge my agents any more than they already are paying to.
Which was nuts. It doesn't even make sense. But again, it's proof in the pudding.
Yeah, it's just who he is.
I didn't know that. So so you feel comfortable with the fact that the head is going, hey, we're not a real estate company, we're a technology company, and you think that you feel really good about how that aligns with what you guys view as what needs to change?
So why would he announce that he's a technology company? Like,
I mean, I don't know. On my side of the table, I'd
Yeah.
be stoked if I was in your chairs, but just
Yeah.
because I personally like that concept.
I think that he had, just from a discussion standpoint, there was a lot of risk in saying that.
Right.
Right. So, he ran into a lot of credibility. He has the opportunity to run into a credibility issue in the industry.
Yeah.
And we've heard a lot of feedback across the industry. Oh, you're a tech company, right?
Yeah.
What we know is he's strategic, right? I like or dislike the guy.
Yeah.
He hasn't been wrong yet,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So, and
Stewart's
that's a
track record.
So that's
there,
that's
right?
a bold statement, but he's super strategic in the way that he puts the company together and the moves that he does make. Calling himself a technology company, he was just setting a foundation for what he's doing now, right? If you're a top AI person at Google, are you going to go work for Keller?
Not if they're a real estate company.
No.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. So, trying to bring it back in again. Where do we go from here, Stewart?
The simple fact is, and I'm not going to say it so bluntly, it's not picking a side. However, if you're not looking at it from this big of a spectrum as an agent, I'm going to tell you that if you're listening to this or watching this, you actually need to have this conversation. Because what I'm seeing as far as individual agents, brokerages, and what have you, the majority are either trying to hold on to what they have or get rid of agents entirely. And I'll frame it in this scenario. If you look at what happened before Henry Ford automated the process to create automobiles en masse, how many car manufacturers were there in our country alone?
I have no idea.
Exactly. There were hundreds.
Hundreds? Before that
I
or
felt like
after
that was
that?
a trick question.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not answering anything.
No,
Right.
there were so many, and there was no way to
Before he
track
automated that?
Before he automated,
Okay.
because everyone was operating on a small local level.
So there had to be a lot of...
Right, because they
right.
couldn't do it at scale.
Okay.
Shipping made it way too expensive, but also you're making one at a time.
Right.
And that was also very expensive. So there were a lot of people doing it, but they were doing it on a small scale for specific localities. What happened when he automated? None of those people could compete because he could get the product out more efficiently and he could drive down cost. Well, what happens then if we take that as the analog? How can you compete in mass when the customer experience is better here and we have the money to continue funneling into the customer experience? Can you continue to make sure that we're winning the war of the eyes, which is who's looking at your stuff?
So
So
audience.
speaking of audience, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, Stewart, but the majority of the people that are going to listen to this or watch this are not agents. I would say the majority.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
I'd
agents.
say, agents listen,
Right.
but no, not a lot.
So what does this mean to them? What do they need to be aware of? And I'm asking questions for you, but that's the thing that keeps, if you're not an agent, this is great information, but as a
Why does it matter?
consumer, and why does this matter? What do we need to know?
Who knew more about getting to the moon? Neil Armstrong or the guy at Mission Control?
Probably. I don't know.
About getting there,
Getting
I would say Mission Control.
It should better be Mission Control.
Yeah, he's the driver, but Mission Control knew how to get there.
Knew how to get
Right.
there. So when you're looking at this as a consumer, do you want someone who looks really good on paper and is out there in your face and is paying lots of money for advertising, or do you want the actual expert?
Well, how do you differentiate though? Because
as a consumer.
I know in real estate there's a lot of data, but a lot of that data is not really available to the consumers, right?
Well, that's
you
what
kind of got to peek behind the scenes.
Right.
Well, and that's where the AI part of it comes in. Is that's your access to the data, and so you have to look at what services are you getting, because if with your example of I'm a consumer and I come to you and you tell me just go look at Zillow, why am I paying you any money if I'm doing all of the research? I've got to know something that you don't, and thanks to a platform that's based on data, I mean, the platform that we've built is based on 30 years of transactional data, which we've kept. So we can actually see trends over what the market itself would actually be able to witness because we've been tracking it for so long. So how do you pick as a consumer? There's certain questions that you need to be asking. And I mean, those questions really just kind of rely on, market data, market factors, and then services over top of it.
So rewind a couple of seconds. What are the questions that should be asked? Maybe not all of them, but one or two questions. If you're a consumer, you're thinking about working with an agent, you want to make sure that they're leveraging AI to your benefit? What do you
Curious
ask?
what's happening in the market, just in general. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, let's look at, if I'm a consumer and I say, all right, well, we all know that I can go on any online portal on the aggregators and look at the listings.
Right.
Tell me more beyond that. So, is our market trending up? Is our market trending down? How can you tell? What are the leading indicators? What are the lagging indicators? So if you can't ask those questions, then you don't need to know what those are.
Right.
As a consumer, you just need to know. Tell me the leading indicators that show me where our market is moving, and show me the lagging indicators of where our market is moving.
And who's looking forward? So one of the challenges with data is old, typically, right? So AI is starting to create a gray area where we're starting to do predictive analytics, right? So I would say that find your market expert. I think that ultimately that's you want somebody that knows the neighborhood, has the data to back it up, so we can look in the past and we can see up to today, and then give you the most educated prediction on where it's gonna go,
and connect you directly to the neighborhood.
Right? Yeah,
like
totally.
I can give you an opportunity right now. If you tell me where you live, I will go ahead and set up through my AI. A monthly email, bi-weekly, whenever you want it, and it will tell you in real time what's active, what's pending, what's closed, what's the average sale price in your neighborhood. And you can interact with that completely independent. You never have to talk to me, but you'll have it in real time all the time.
One-to-one rather than just going to Zillow.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so we started this whole conversation, and we could continue for a long time, but we can't today.
Right. Well, the fallout rate's already happening. Right? It's been going for a while. Right.
So the two questions we wanted to start with were what's happening and where are we going?
Yeah.
And I think we've answered that, but can we answer these in 30 seconds almost as a summary? Whoever wants to answer whichever one or whatever, go for it. But give the recap there. Where are we and where are we going?
So where are we right now is we're in the phase of our industry where we have market saturation, and now we're looking at innovation versus disruption. And that's coming through technology, additives, and it's a war over the consumer experience. So where are we going? We're going to a place where I think that both can exist. However, you're going to have to decide as an agent and as a consumer where your best fit is. You're either going to be an agent who is enabled by technology, and the agent remains as the fiduciary, or you're going to be technology or
an agent
as an agent, and so the technology becomes the fiduciary, and you're just opening doors.
I think it's the people. I think this has always been a people business. I really believe that so for me, .com blew everything up, right? And it was like you can have access to everything, and I believe we're moving more into an artisan experience. So be an expert, find that person that you really connect with that's going to give you a super high level of customer service in whatever you're doing. I'm even reaching outside of the real estate industry.
Yeah.
I know that my one-to-one relationships right now are way more important than they were. So now when I buy something, I'm asking the question, it's much easier for me to get it on Amazon, but I'd like to support this local shop.
Right.
And I think that if the local shop can deliver the product at a competitive price and give me a value add, I'm going to embrace that.
Yeah, and I agree with you on wholeheartedly, and I think part of that is I think a lot of people are sometimes even willing to pay significantly more for the exact same thing if how you get it, how you receive it, how you digest it, et cetera, is 10 times better than.
So be the best at what you do. I think, in summary, it's whatever your silo is, I mean, outside of the industry, let's partner with technology. Let's be empowered by it and enabled by it, and let's deliver at a super high level.
So, in general, be excited about the disruption that's happening, and if you take the time to study it, learn it, it's going to be a big benefit. Is that
to the end consumer
and to the practitioners, right?
Practitioners as well.
Right? So.
Yeah, it's an awesome time to be able to be in this industry, because I see that it is a great chance for us to really demonstrate more value to people, and I would like to think that that's why most people got into this, is they actually have a servant's heart and really care about people. So this is going to further our ability to take care of that.
And I don't want to, this is not an ad plug. We constantly are masterminding these topics. And I will just throw it out there that I know. You were going to say something?
Well, no, I was going to say, go ahead and talk about yourself, how people can get in contact with you, and why you are why we're even talking about, because you've seen
so
behind the scenes.
We're
So
students
take that.
of this process. So what we're finding is I'm having agents from other firms wanting to grab coffee and just talk.
Yeah.
We're doing masterminds and events just to talk about this and find out where are leverage points, where are you spending money, where should you not be spending money. As a whole, I would like to open up this discussion, and that's open to consumers as well. Like, come get in it. So I'm at the Keller Williams locations that are more central in downtown, Weaverville and Black Mountain, and Stewart's in the Turtle Creek location off Hendersonville Road. Reach out. Where these events are happening all the time, and it's not. They're like, there's no recruiting or like sales pitch. We're literally getting business owners together and like, what are you seeing? I would encourage people to reach out and be part of that.
What's the best way for somebody to reach out?
So
to get connected with these events?
For me, literally, you can call the front desk at any of the Keller offices. You can call me directly. My email is jstewart@kw.com, and you're welcome to reach out, and we'll just funnel you to the events. We have a strong calendar.
Yeah, and so you can call me directly. The cell number is 252-269-4706.
Brave soul.
Morehead City number, man. I'm good with it. Give me a call. Let's talk. And then the email is stewart.downey@kw.com.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys both so much for taking the time
awesome.
and to deep diving this. And I think 2020 is going to bring some interesting changes. So like maybe we'll have to a couple months in, have a recap and be like, wow, can we believe that happened? And just see what the fallout's going to be. So yeah, thanks for coming on the show, you all. To everybody listening, if you guys like the show, please share with your friends, leave us a rating, review it. You can tune in on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your stuff. So thanks, and see you guys next week.